Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 50 by 50. We are the Harvard class of 1976 podcast, specifically what happened to the Harvard class of 1976. I'm your host, Michael Conniff, a member of that class, and I am joined by my good friend coming to us live from Ithaca, New York, Fred Cowett. How are you, Fred?
Very well, Michael. How are you?
Good to see you. Now, whenever I think of Fred Cowett, at Harvard in particular, I think of, I always had a description for you. I said, Fred's a trooper. You call up Fred and you say, let's go to a concert. And you never said no, not once. And concert
I never said no to you.
to me, yeah. Right, exactly. But what's funny, so much of what I think about our experience at Harvard was the music that was in the air at the time, right?
Yeah,
What do you think of when you think back about that?
to the music?
Yeah, the
I
music we
think,
saw specifically.
well, it's like, it was the setting was like the fact that you could go to a club and sit, within spitting distance of some legend was just, it was an unbelievable opportunity. I mean, you can't do that anymore, really, as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I think we're talking specifically about Paul's Mall and the Jazz Workshop, which were both downstairs in the middle of Boston, and pretty legendary places, really, both of them.
Yeah.
But I remember one night in particular where we went to see Miles Davis, and there was an opening act. And there was this guy singing and doing all kinds of crazy things with his voice. I'd never heard of him before. And that turned out to be Al Jarreau, I think on his first tour, who became a big star.
Yeah.
And then Miles Davis, I think, is an experience we both still remember, right?
How can you forget Miles? That was, yeah. I mean, I was so stoked to see Miles. I don't even remember Al Jarreau. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's funny.
Miles is unbelievable. I mean, he's one of a kind.
Yeah.
So,
And Miles, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but he had kind of his acid rock band, and he had
yeah,
his organ. He was playing the organ and the trumpet. But at one point, they would kind of start and stop on a dime. And at one point, he pulled his hand down and they stopped cold, and it was silence, right?
yeah.
And in the silence, Miles leans into the microphone and says, "Jazz, motherfucker." And then it hits his head again, and off they went. But wasn't it? I see we have a lot to talk about, but I see one of the things of being at Harvard when we were there was we still had we had Motown, we had soul, we had what became fusion, which was my first love was the Mahavishnu Orchestra, of course, but Return to Forever. We had bands that were Herbie Hancock. We actually, I don't know if you were there for this, but at the Jazz Workshop, there was a before and an after. So he performed with a group called Mwandishi, which is the weirdest crap you could, it was really good, I thought, but it was very strange. And then he came back with Headhunters, which was funk and Chameleon and Waterman, and all kinds of great stuff. But I think we kind of had that all at once. Is that how? Do you
I
see it
might
the
have
same
missed,
way I do?
I might have missed that night because I don't really remember that, but
Yeah,
I do remember seeing Herbie Hancock, and I think he had a trombone player.
that could be. That could
Yeah,
be, or
I
a
remember.
bass saxophone, perhaps, baritone
No,
sax.
no, I think he had a trombone player. Well, some band we went to see had a trombone player, which I thought was pretty unusual for a. It was it wasn't people didn't play trombone that much back in 1970 whatever.
No, the trombone. There was
That was like
J.J. Johnson, and I think
Yeah,
that
it
was
was like
about it.
Robert Preston I associate with trombones, not Herbie Hancock. So
You mean the Music Man?
exactly.
Yeah, I actually, Fred, I went to the original production on Broadway when I was 6 years old. It's my
Good.
first memory. My 76 trombones is my first memory. But anyway, you and I had a bunch of things in common. We're both from New York City. We both grew up kind of in the same milieu, I think you could say.
Yep.
But tell us, but you went to collegiate school, as I recall, right?
Yes,
And
I did.
so, how did you feel when you first got to Harvard? Like, did you have dislocation? Did you have anxiety? Were you like, what am I doing here? Or what was your initial embrace of the school?
Well, I had lots of anxiety. There's no doubt about that. But I think, it's perfectly normal. I mean, in one sense, my father had gone to Harvard. And so I was always trying to calibrate. I remember he said, well, he asked me, don't they still have maids cleaning your rooms? And it was like, I was always trying to calibrate sort of his like
Yeah,
vision of his remembrance of Harvard in like early 1940s to what what I encountered, and
yeah.
it was a very different place.
You could
So
have told your father, my friend Mike is cleaning the bathroom, because that's what I did on dorm crew freshman year.
yeah,
Um,
well, yeah, he so I mean, I used to go to Harvard football games, and
as
so
a kid,
I was definitely I was definitely steeped in going to Harvard this and Harvard that, and
so you
um,
kind of you knew you were going.
well, I didn't know I was going, but I remember I wanted to go to the University of Chicago, and I remember the look on my father's face was like, "Okay, kid, you're paying." It was like,
So much for that.
second thought, maybe Harvard's not such a bad option. So
What did you expect when you arrived, and how is it different than
what
what you
did I
expected?
expect when I went to Harvard?
Yeah,
I I I didn't know what to expect. So I mean, it was all brand new. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, I'd gone to a very small private school.
yeah.
Small being that, a class, there were 35, 40 people in my class, and suddenly, I didn't go to a public high school like my kids did with, 3,000 people or whatever. So it was a
Right.
much different experience. And yeah, so it was just a much, it was a bigger scene, a lot more people. Um, that's what I remember. It was, that was the adjustment, really. It was like there's so many people in my class. Plus, the other
Yeah.
thing was I entered with sophomore standing. So
No, I didn't know that.
from the start, I mean, I was going down to Kirkland House for a history tutorial and stuff. I never took a freshman seminar, which in retrospect I kind of regret,
Hmm.
because that's sort of like separated me to some extent from other classmates and stuff. And I never lived in a well, that's not true. I went to an English boarding school, so I definitely lived in a dorm for 1 year. So that wasn't an I it was there were definitely differences. It was it definitely took an adjustment at times.
What house were you in?
Which house or which freshman dorm was I in?
Well,
I
both.
was I was in Thayer South, which was
Okay.
the subject of a lot of abuse, and from Wigglesworth or wherever,
Yeah.
and
Well, as
yeah,
I recall, Thayer sucks, right?
yeah, Thayer sucks. Yeah, all three entries sucked.
Did you ever find out why Thayer sucks? I never heard any explanation. It was just people would yell out if they don't remember, just be yelling out randomly, Thayer
Well,
suck.
someone had to suck, so I guess we were the chosen ones. And
It
then
was Thayer. Yeah.
I was in Lowell House.
Yeah. Okay. And what did you think you were going to do when you got out? Were you a person who sort of
I
had
had
it
no
planned?
goddamn idea what I was going to do when I got out. No clue. I mean,
Okay.
I, I mean, I thought maybe I'd become like a history professor or something because I was, I was very involved with history. I loved history,
Yep.
and at some point I sort of sort of lost the desire to be a history professor.
Yeah.
I didn't particularly like the history department at Harvard. Um, so maybe that had something to do with it. Some history classes I liked, but a lot of them I didn't. Some of them I didn't really care for. So
I want to spoil the punchline here, which is
yeah,
that I should have introduced you this way, but you are the town forester. Did I get
I'm,
that right?
I'm the village forester in
You're
the
the
village.
village forester in Ithaca, New York. So your journey is going to be from I don't know what I'm going to do.
But Michael, I was the Lowell House gardener for one term.
I had no idea. Was that a real job?
You know, it took those are like two events that are 50 years apart. So there's, there's no reason why you would make that connection. I don't think I was going to make that connection at the time, and I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, the housemaster Zeph Stewart posted a notice. Would someone like to be the Lowell House gardener? I said, well, okay. And I went and I interviewed with him, and
Now
I
wait a
don't
minute.
know.
You're a New York City kid, right? So you can you like even identify a flower? Do you know
I
anything?
I don't know why he said he thought I was going to be a good gardener. I don't know. Because I don't know what I was doing. In retrospect, I was digging up old tulip bulbs, and that's what you're supposed to do because
Yeah.
tulips don't really rebloom. And then I thought afterwards, I said, geez, I threw all these things away. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, it was actually one thing I would connect with being the village forester 50 years later was that I did enjoy being there and sort of digging around, and then people would come by and talk. And I really enjoyed the social aspect of that,
Yeah.
and people being interested. And so, as a village forester, that's a lot of what I do is interact with my fellow residents
Yeah.
and discuss horticultural things with them, and that's kind of fun. It's always fun to find out why people don't like trees. And it,
Okay, I'll bite. Why don't people like trees?
it depends. I remember talking to someone. This is in I think Utica, New York. People didn't like trees in Utica because they were. Well, it's not that they didn't like trees, but there was a wave of immigrants from the former Yugoslavia, and they were used to using urban wood for heating. So the city would plant trees and not knowing, I mean, they would cut them, they would, cut them down and sort of bring them inside and heat their house with it. But why do people not like trees? There's one village trustee member, he just says there are too many, we have enough trees. I don't like trees on the street. Why? I don't know. Some people like the sunshine, people,
Yeah. Carbon
uh,
dioxide,
yeah,
you
they
know.
don't, well, no, they don't want shade, they want sun, and
All right. Oh, I
if
see.
you come
Yeah.
from a cold climate, not that
Yeah.
Ithaca's warm, but
To each their own. But did you have ever in any moment as the Lowell House gardener
yeah.
a very distinguished position in the hierarchy? Did, did you, and particularly as an undergraduate, did you have any sense like I'm going to end up doing this kind of thing in my life?
Absolutely not.
None. But you did like it. You did enjoy it.
I did. I did like it.
Yeah.
I had like green overalls that I wore all the time. I mean, I looked the part.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember you, and you had you would have been like a back to the land hippie farmer of a Lowell
Yeah.
House, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
you look the same very much, but you had long black, curly black, long curly
I had
hippie-ish,
lots of hair. That is true.
lots of hair. You had lots of hair. So when and I didn't know you were a history major. What did you have a part of history that you majored in or liked the most?
Uh, I liked English history. I'd gone to a boarding school in England for a year, so I was pretty well
That's right.
steeped in English history. And yeah, I was enamored of, I was a real Anglophile at that
There was
point.
a great English history professor. Do you remember his name? I'm trying to remember. McAllister or McCaffrey,
No,
something like that.
uh,
I'll I'll find out in one of these podcasts. But he was terrific, and it came home to roost. I took one semester in when I took my orals in history because I majored in history too, and they started to quiz me on English history. I had taken one semester, and this is what I think you learn at Harvard. You learn how to get out of situations like that. And so I said, "Oh, that was in the second semester. I didn't take that course, so there's no way I could know."
it
And it
was a
worked. So
statute of limitations. Second semester's
yeah,
out.
statute of limitations. So you get through Harvard, and did you move back to New York City or what?
Well, you all graduated in 76. I didn't graduate till
No,
77.
77.
You graduated
77.
in
Yeah,
72?
I did. I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you were
yeah.
in the
So
5 year plan too. Okay.
I was. What did you do in the extra year? For a guy who could have graduated a year early, you took 5 years? Really?
Yeah, I entered with sophomore standing, and I I wasn't prepared to leave, I guess. But I took a year off after my first year of sophomore year, or first year or second year, and what did I do? I went down. I was in uh, my some of my friends called me like the Fifth Avenue proletariat because I'd grown up on Fifth Avenue, but I definitely was like trying to shed that. And what did I do? I went down to Louisiana and I worked on a railroad. I was part of a
Wow.
railroad signal crew. They were investing in this new thing called microwave.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So the
Line of
signal,
sight, baby.
yeah, it's like signal. They were installing a microwave signal system, and so we were having to dig up the old system and put in the new one, which is hard because railroad ballast
Yeah.
is highly compacted, and to like try and dig a trench in that stuff is not fun. So I
Mm.
did that, and then at some point I came back to New York. My sister was ill, so I came back to New York, and just to make sure she was okay. And then I worked I worked at JFK in international arrivals and baggage, doing baggage services during the
Really?
yeah during the winter. It was chilly.
Yeah. So you had to
But
go out and unload the plane and load the plane.
well, I have a new appreciation for 747s. I got one because it was I'd never seen something. When you're on the tarmac and you look at that plane,
Yeah.
it's it's a monster. It's
Yeah.
incredibly large. How does
Yeah.
that thing ever get in the air? I don't know. But yeah, so I did a bunch of things, and I went back to Harvard.
But
Uh,
before we get you back to Harvard, so what do you think? So these are really tough blue collar jobs,
yes,
right?
yes, yes.
So why did you do those? You
If
could
you
have
think
done.
about it, if you think about it, now just getting back to the connection with village forestry, I became a very good with a shovel and a pick when I was in Louisiana, which was it's very helpful being the village forester because I plant all the trees myself,
Yeah.
uh, which has never been a problem.
But you
So
liked the thread is, I guess, that you weren't afraid of the manual labor, and in fact
no,
some of it you liked.
I like being outside. I like
Yeah.
working with my hands.
Yeah.
Years later, I wound up in a, not to jump ahead, Mike, sorry to upset
No,
the,
it's okay. It's
but,
okay.
but I wound up, years later, I wound up working in a public garden in Los Angeles, which I really enjoyed. And it just, it all
Fell
sort of,
together.
it all tied, yeah, it all held together.
It's okay to jump ahead because who knows if we're even going to finish this podcast? The whole thing might end before that. But
Yeah,
okay. So you had the year off. You kind of were living a little bit of a blue collar fantasy
yeah,
novel,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
when you came back, because I came back too that same year, you and I left the same year. When you came back, did you feel like a different
I
person? Did
was
you have a
much
different
much
attitude?
much more focused.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because before I left, it's like, why do I want to be at Harvard doing this? And then, when I came back, because I did a whole bunch of, I came back and said, I think I think I actually want to work hard. I think I
Yeah.
want to graduate, with being proud of myself and stuff. And so yeah, I definitely applied myself a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And
I had a
and I
similar,
think, yeah,
a similar kind of trajectory. So I went to California. I was smarter than you. I went to California for the year, or
better than
actually,
Louisiana, let me tell
yeah.
you.
And so the only person I knew in California was William Randolph Hearst Jr.
Mhm.
Not a bad guy to know. He was my father's best friend, and they won a
Wow.
Pulitzer together. So he got me a job as a copy boy. Accidentally, he got me a job in Los Angeles, and I said, overheard, and I said, Mr. Hearst, I said San Francisco. So he immediately calls San Francisco, gets me the same job as a copy boy in San Francisco. But the only reason I tell you this is that six a month later, Patty Hearst got kidnapped, and her father was the publisher of that paper. So I was really lucky to be in the newsroom for the biggest story in the country the whole time I was there. It was really just an accident, but it was something to behold, and I know you remember that was a big deal
Absolutely.
when we
Absolutely.
were when we were that age. But same thing with you. I came back and I was a lot more focused. I didn't feel like I had to prove myself. I don't know. I don't know. It's just more much older, right? More mature. Whatever that combination
Absolutely.
is.
Yep.
So, did you do better for the rest of the time in school? Did you
Oh yeah.
graduate proudly?
Yeah. It was night and day. It was like no comparison. I mean, the
Okay.
first, the first year was like, yeah, let me experiment getting a C or whatever. What is that going to feel like? Let me, because
Because you never had. You
yeah,
never
I
had.
never had. And then I found out what it was. I think I got a B minus. I think that was my lowest grade was a B minus. But for me, that was like disaster. I was
Yeah,
like,
like there, it kind of sucks.
I don't, yeah, I don't think I like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I did a lot better. But actually, it was the last year I was at Harvard was the best because, I'd actually written my thesis. I fulfilled all my requirements. I could take any course I wanted, which in retrospect is what I should have done freshman year. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, and I
What
took,
did you take? What did you like?
it was like I took a class in Slavic literature class on Tolstoy. Great class. Love that class.
Hmm.
Um, and I think I took uh, sort of like a history of art theory or something like that. That I really, really William Jackson Bates. I think that was my last year, but
Yeah, the
that
famous
class
Samuel.
I really liked that class. It made me
Yeah,
think. It
he
was
was a
good.
famous Samuel Johnson scholar
Yep,
as well.
yep,
As
yep.
well.
Absolutely.
So you liked school. Sounds like you liked school.
I
You
wound
liked
up
college.
wound up liking school a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to go to a lot of good concerts. Sit a couple feet from the famous,
Yeah.
legendary musicians.
Yeah.
Um, and then you graduate. And what you said, you kind of said you had no idea. And another thing, had in common were like you know, nobody majors in history anymore. I don't think. I think that's kind of dying. So we graduate in history.
Yeah.
There's no automatic path when you're a history major if you don't
No.
become a professor, right? So what
Right.
did you end up doing there? Did you do some more blue collar stuff,
Well,
or did you head for
no.
Hollywood?
I went white collar actually. I wound up working for a food brokerage company. Food brokerage companies are companies that service uh, food manufacturers who don't maintain their own sales forces. And so they hire a company to represent them in the supermarkets, in this case, New York City. And New York City supermarket business is pretty cutthroat. It's it's a very and we're not it's not just New York City. It was actually New Jersey and New York City. So I worked for that company for like, geez, I don't know, a year and a half, almost 2 years. And it got to the point where they wanted to know whether I wanted to make this my career. And I said, I don't really think so. I mean, it was interesting. I kind of liked it. So yeah, and then I had a friend in Los Angeles who from high school who I worked with him the last year in high school. He made a movie, 16 millimeter movie about two guys who are going to a party, and they're very different. You know, one guy is sort of the Holden Caulfield, and the other guy is the Stradlater. And I don't know, he thought this was like a good comparison. And we edited the movie together. That's the summer before high school in some editing house in the Diamond District in New York on 45th, whatever it is. And I recut the movie one day, the opening sequence. He had the two guys talking to their mothers before they go to this party, very consequential party. And there was one guy talking to his mom, and then it cut to another guy talking to his mom. And it was like really stilted and boring. So one day I got to the editing place early, and I just totally recut it. I intercut everything. And so anyway, you go from one kid to the next kid to the back to the first, back to the second.
Mm-hmm.
My friend was really pissed off with me. He said, "You didn't ask me to do that," because in those days you actually had to like sit there with, do everything manually. It wasn't
With literally, tape and scissors.
Cut and paste everything. It was like a lot of work.
Yeah.
So he was pissed at me, and then he said, this is better." So
You didn't ask, but I like what you did. Was that your famous producer friend, Bill Block?
No, that was not my famous producer friend, Bill Block. That was my friend who went to AFI, and then he made another movie,
Institute.
and he wound up getting nominated for an Academy Award, but he lost. So.
Oh, who was that?
He was in Los Angeles. What's his name? Seth Pinsker was his name.
Okay.
And he lived in Los Angeles, and I went out to visit him, and I said, "Oh, Los Angeles is a pretty nice place. I kind of like it here." And so ultimately,
A lot of trees.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of like, did my Beverly Hills Billies and drove out there and just
You loaded up the truck.
loaded up my TR7, and there I was.
Yeah.
Out in Los Angeles. So then,
Did you know you were going to try to do films?
no, I mean, it was like a possibility, but
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody in the film business.
Yeah.
And well, I knew my friend Seth, but he wasn't. He was a struggling director.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Bill, I guess he was out there maybe, but by then, but I can't really remember. But yeah, so I just did a lot of, I sort of, banged on doors and called up people and, sort of got my foot in the door a little bit and did that for, I was reading scripts. I was working as a production assistant. I'd read a lot of scripts. I wound up reading for TriStar Pictures. I don't know. I don't even think they're in existence anymore. But I was like the rush job reader because it paid double, and so they would give you scripts at the end of the day or at night, whatever, and you had to read it overnight, and then it would go to the executives, and so that was kind of fun. But I was also appended to, started working as a PA with a production manager. And so when he went from one movie to the next, I went with him. So I did a bunch of movies with him. And I think I got into the location managers union.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, which is actually the Teamsters run location managing.
Uh-huh.
That was interesting.
You were a Teamster.
I was a Teamster briefly.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
Did you like the location management business?
No, because I kind of stopped doing that. I really didn't like being on sets. To be
Hmm.
on a set, I find to be incredibly boring.
Yeah.
It's everything is hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
And and also, if you're the location manager, you're the first on the set and you're the last to leave. So not that that part really. I mean, it was the boredom part. I just
Yeah.
got so bloody bored.
A lot of
Just
standing around.
a lot of standing around. So
And then you started to write.
then I started to write, and I I had a writing partner named Denise, and yeah, we actually got a little bit of traction going, and some producer offered us a deal, and for some reason we stupidly said, "Well, it's not enough money,"
Hmm.
and and he said, "Okay, nice
Goodbye.
seeing you,"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah. So then but I was still reading. I was still doing, even when I was writing, I was still doing the script reading stuff. You know, yeah, because I was kind of interested in the story department,
Yeah.
uh, actually. And if I was to like be completely honest with myself, uh, I don't think that writing was really what I was destined to do. Um,
Hmm.
if I think just conceptualizing things is what I'm better at, and organizing narratives is something I'm better
Yeah.
at.
Story.
Dialogue,
Yeah.
I'm terrible at, so I have no business even trying to write dialogue, really.
You had another collaborator too.
Hmm. I've had a few.
And that person was me.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
you.
We did a script of a Tobias Wolf short
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
I don't even remember it. Do you remember the name of it?
That's a good question.
It was an
Um,
you had rights to it. You had bought rights to it.
yeah, I had options. I had
You had
options.
an option, and we
Expensive.
worked on it probably 3 or 4 months, and never completely solved the riddle because a short story is not a screenplay. But it was certainly fun. I certainly enjoyed it.
Yep.
And when did you when did you decide you weren't going to stay in Hollywood? This is a big question for you because I thought you were
Well,
going to be there
I moved
forever.
to what happened was I moved to the Hollywood Hills. I was living in the flats, and at one point I'd gotten married, and then I got divorced, and then I got in another relationship, and ultimately got married again. And we moved to a house in the Hollywood Hills, and suddenly I had land, just like Duty Kravitz has land, right? A man with land I was. And I started gardening. I
But
started plant, I started planting tomatoes. They had an irrigation system. I sort of expanded the irrigation system. I went pretty whole hog, and I realized, you know something, I'm a lot happier doing this than I am being in Hollywood. And so then I took a class on soil science at UCLA, and my professor was the superintendent of a garden in Beverly Hills. There's a 6-acre estate in back of the Beverly Hills Hotel, north of Sunset Boulevard, and it had the owner of the estate, Mrs. Robinson of Robinson Department Stores. When she died, she willed it to L.A. County, and she had been like an avid horticulturalist, and he was the superintendent of the garden. He said, "How would you like to come work for me?" I said, "That sounds
now, did he
great."
did he did he did he know why would he ask you? Did he know you liked this stuff? Had he seen what
Well,
you'd done?
well, I don't think I was the typical. This was extension, so this is UCLA extension,
Hmm.
and I mean, I actually asked questions, and I actually read the soil science book, so
Yeah.
maybe he was impressed with that, and
Yeah.
yeah, I just started talking to him, and and he needed to hire. He had the supervisor. Los Angeles has 5 supervisors. L.A. County does, and this was an L.A. County garden, and the supervisor who is in the west side of Los Angeles, Zev Yaroslavsky, decided to be, I don't know, nice to this particular garden and sort of gave him 2 positions. He funded 2 positions. So he was looking to hire someone, and he chose me.
There you were.
And someone else. Yeah, he hired someone else. And so I went up working for him, and then everything after that was, basically horticulture, and I never sort of
Never looked back.
Yeah, I never went back to movies or anything like that.
How long were you at the LA job doing the gardening?
I was there 2 years, and then I fell afoul of a civil service situation where someone had left and came and decided to come back, and because they had seniority, I had to leave.
Oh,
So I had picked up all this skill on irrigation and horticulture. I was basically doing the irrigation system there. So at the garden, so I basically started my own sort of landscape business in a way. I mean, I knew a lot of people, and they had things for me to do, so I did that. But ultimately, I said, here I am. I'm not going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I'm getting older now. It's what am I going to be doing when I'm 50 or 60 or 70? So I wound up getting, I started thinking, well, landscape architecture sounded like a good place to go. Because I was interested in gardens, and I was interested in the environment.
you like being outdoors?
I love being outdoors. I was in this garden. I mean, the garden where I worked was a historical garden. I mean, it is a historical. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. So you sort of you get a veneration for places like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just your typical. I want to plant 10 tomato plants in my backyard. It isn't like that. And so you see, and I take people on tours, and you get an appreciation for what a space like that, the impact it has on people. That got me to thinking that this is something I'm interested in. How do you create a landscape space? Not that
Now,
I-
before we take you to the east, I want to point out that you married the beautiful Diana Reisman, who is the cousin, I think the first cousin of our classmate, Bob
Bob
Reisman.
Eastman, yeah, the
Um,
Montreal branch.
the
It's the
Montreal
Montreal branch of the
branch,
Eastman family, right?
and Bob, I think is going through a pretty hard time right now, and
Yeah,
we want to acknowledge that because he had a lot of. I had just like a week ago, John Kiernan, who said to me, "Oh, gee, I can't. I'm looking forward to seeing Bob Reisman," and Bob, is not the man he was, not the person he was,
right,
unfortunately, but
right.
he's well taken care of.
Yep.
And so you and Diana, now, how she was in the film business too, as I recall, right? So how hard was it to sort of pick up stakes and say goodbye to Hollywood, literally?
Well, she worked for a couple of agents, and she worked. Then she wound up going to work for KCRW, which is the National Public Radio Station in Los Angeles. She wrote them like just a cold letter, she just wrote them a letter. It was a great letter, and they actually called her up. And
Wow,
they
how about
said,
that?
and she wound up working. She wound up driving to Santa Monica every day, and so in the aftermath of the Rodney King riots, KCRW started this show called Which Way LA, which was basically Los Angeles taking a hard look at itself in which way does LA want to go. Basically, that was the concept, and she wound up working on that show. I don't know if it's still going. It went on for years,
Yeah,
and which is it was great. And she also
a good
produced
gig. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, she wound up becoming a radio producer there. She produced a food show, which was very humorous, and she didn't cook. But yeah, she was so yeah. How hard was it for? She had a great gig at KCRW, and and I say, well, geez, I want to go to grad school, and partly we had one child, and do we want to really have an Angelino as a child? I mean, living in the living in the Hollywood Hills, as two people, two adults, fantastic. We lived on this cul-de-sac. We called it the cul-de-sac because everyone got along. We were all best friends and all. People started to move. I had a kid. It was very steep. I mean, it was a 33-degree grade up there. It was, well, maybe East Coast. It's time to move back, And so I looked
Yeah.
at schools on the East Coast, and actually I went back to Harvard and they had something called a discovery program, which is for people who are looking to get their feet wet, in this case in landscape architecture. And so they basically go to the Graduate School of Design, the GSD, during the summer, and they they give you projects, and you basically have crits, and you go through the process, and so you get an idea of what going to grad school would be like. Now, most of the people aren't in their mid 40s, but it was a great experience, and I lived in the law school during the summer,
Mm-hmm.
during those weeks in the Bauhaus architecture of
Uh
the
huh.
law school dorms, and so then actually the only school I didn't get into was Harvard. I got into everywhere else. They all, and which
Do
was
they
really
have, is the GSD the landscape school?
uh,
Landscape architecture?
school of design.
School of design, yeah.
Design, yeah. So it's because it's a design discipline. So is architecture and planning. It's regional city planning. Well,
Yep.
that's no, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember at a very brief moment, I thought about an urban planning career, and that would
yeah,
have been the place for it. But so instead, you end up going to Ithaca. What
yeah.
year was
So
that? What year was that?
I went to it was 2001. I matriculated in 2001,
At
and
Cornell. Yep.
yeah, Ithaca. So I got to University of Pennsylvania, which is Pennsylvania and Harvard were like the two top schools, and they were going to give me money, and it was like hunky dory. But I just, I had one kid and another one on the way. I didn't know where I was going to live. It just seemed like this was going to be hard to be responsible as a family
Yeah.
guy, and also a grad student, and plus there was a very strong connection between the landscape architecture department at Cornell and the horticulture department, because the chair of the landscape architecture department was married to like the urban horticulture professor. So I said,
It's
okay,
one way to be close to them. Yeah.
so this is good. I remember being at the GSD, and I was interested, at the Discovery program, I was interested in plants. But
Yeah.
I just remember at Harvard, it was like, what do you want
Plants?
to? Yeah, exactly. It was like that. Plants?
Yeah.
What do we care about plants for? Well,
Yeah. We gotta build great buildings. We gotta be Harvard.
yeah,
So you move, and I think probably the decision essentially you move to a college town, right? Which is
yeah.
inherently going to be younger. Usually, it's going to be more family friendly. Typically,
I could live within walking distance of the campus. I didn't know what I was going to do in Philadelphia.
yeah. So you started to study landscape, and
Right.
I guess got to know the town fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers in Ithaca.
Yeah.
Um, and so how did that? What did you do, and how did that lead to the job with the town or the village? Sorry.
So I actually never lived in Ithaca. I lived in Cuga Heights, which is the very well-to-do suburb to the north of Ithaca. Cornell is actually on the eastern and northern portion of Ithaca. Most of Ithaca is well to the west and to the south.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so where I wound up in the village of Cuga Heights because that was the closest place to live that didn't involve hiking up a huge hill every day.
Uh-huh.
And they had a school. They had an elementary school, so I knew where the kids could walk to school. You know,
Uh-huh.
it was a very a lot of this was decision making was family oriented and what's going to
Sure.
work out best for the family, not just for me.
Yep.
Uh, I was feeling guilty enough yanking my wife out of KCRW,
Yeah.
um, so ultimately, yeah, I got involved in municipal goings on, and I became.
As did your wife, right? She's very involved
She
in.
was she was a she was a trustee. She became a trustee of the village for
Uh-huh.
about it was either 4 years or 6 years in the middle of a deer controversy. The village was overrun with deer, and the village wanted to cull deer. And a lot of people in the village didn't want the village to cull deer. And I mean, we were on the national news, and it was just the deer wars were unbelievable.
Was she pro deer or anti deer?
No, she was pro culling. You know.
Pro culling, yeah. I'm not surprised. Um, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I would have been pro culling,
Well,
but
ecologically, they're disastrous.
yeah, yeah,
I
they
mean, they're
are a
changing.
problem.
They changed the mix of. They changed the ecology of it's they, ju- you
Yeah,
know. So anyway,
interesting. So
so
you
I wound up getting involved with the planning department, with the planning board. I joined the
okay,
planning in 2010, and
okay,
I became the planning board chair in 2014. And then at some point, I think I finished my dissertation in 2014, and it's then
Fred. It took you a while to finish your dissertation.
well, yeah, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. Uh, I can't remember. It took a while. Well, in between
What
finishing
was it
my,
about, by the way? What did you study? What did you write about?
I wrote about it was a statewide assessment of street trees in New York State.
Oh,
So
okay,
yeah, basically it's sort of like demography of street trees in New York State, kind of like that.
interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
And so you're on the planning commission, and this sort of, and you've done your thesis on.
The village forester retired,
Ah,
and who's left to be the village forester? And not like a whole lot of people wanted this.
nobody was raising their hand. How old was the previous village forester when he retired? Do you remember?
Oh, Andre, he was late 70s.
So you still have some runway.
I have a little bit of runway, yeah.
They're not leaning on you to retire, are they?
No, I don't think anyone's been clamoring to replace me.
Yeah,
I periodically I get pissed off and I say, now if you want to fire me, if you want to replace me, go right ahead.
yeah. Well, there you'll be a hard man to replace, I'm sure. But
Yes,
what did I don't want to attach lofty language to this that shouldn't be there, but did you have a vision for what you wanted to accomplish in that job in that town?
uh, well, I would separate the two. So I'm still the planning board chair. So in the planning board chair, yeah, because at one point, I'm trying to think. So at one point when I was at Cornell, I'd become appended to this organization called the Sustainable Sites Initiative, which was basically LEED. You know about LEED, the
Yeah, lead
which is
regulations and
LEED
requirements.
is about environmental sustainability, but it's mostly related to architecture.
Yeah.
So of course, landscape architects said, "Well, what about us?" And so they started this thing called the Sustainable Sites Initiative. Long story short, it ultimately became part of LEED. The LEED swallowed them up. But in working with, and it was out of Austin, Texas, the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. So that was fun to go down and see that and meet those people. But I was very interested in, I'm not opposed to development, but I'm very interested in sort of ecologically responsible development. And so this has given me an opportunity to actually have an impact.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that part I've really
Is there
valued.
any project initiated or shepherded that you're most proud of?
No, I mean, a lot of it has to do with just, dumbass site plan review when someone wants to build a house on a vacant lot. The only thing we did was we changed the code. So before, if there was a vacant lot, you could just build a house on it, and no one had to ask any questions. They didn't have to answer to anybody. And we changed the code so that, yeah, you had to come before the planning board, and we were going to have input as to what you were going to build and how you're going to build it, meaning, how are you accounting for stormwater runoff? Cuba Heights is on a very steep slope.
Yeah.
Goes, Everything goes downhill.
Yep.
And so we're very sensitive to stormwater runoff and washing out culverts and damaging property and stuff like that. So we want people to be responsible when they build a house on a vacant lot for managing their stormwater. And so, yeah, that's one thing I'm proud that we've done, because it's not, you shouldn't just get a free, you can't just pipe it away. It has to go somewhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No. No. That's great.
for
That's
that, and yeah, you should take responsibility if you're going to pave over a vacant lot. Well, you're going to have to account for stormwater. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm proud of that.
Do you ever think about what would have happened, how your life would be different had you stayed in Hollywood and had you kind of kept plugging away and as I think I'm sure many of your friends did and do, right? They're probably
Yeah,
still there, a lot of them.
yeah.
Did you ever because the path you took, starting with that course in that Beverly Hills garden, was so different. Like you could not have said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Hollywood. I'm going to work in the industry for a while, and then I'm going to become a gardener, and I'm going to end up as the village gardener in Ithaca, New York. I mean, it's sort of like, woo,
Yeah.
that's a big turn. So,
I,
do you
I,
ever regret that, or think,
no. Well, yeah, I regret that I mean, what I always, I regret that I didn't figure this out sooner,
yeah,
because I would have enjoyed doing it more.
yeah,
Uh, but that's okay. I
yeah,
mean, everyone takes a
yeah,
different path, and some people's paths are more linear than others, and mine definitely was not linear, but that's okay. I
yeah,
mean,
until it became linear when you found what you really wanted to do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, you know, I I think everyone's got to figure this out for themselves.
yeah, for
Do
sure.
I wish I could have figured it out sooner? Sure. But I didn't.
Better late than never.
That's right. And
Better late than never.
and it was interesting getting a master's and a PhD, and
Yeah,
you know, to me, I was always academically inclined. But although these are, I tell you, one funny thing is that when I went from landscape architecture to the horticulture department to get a PhD, I was shunned by the landscape architects because suddenly I'd gone from the fine arts, because I mean that's what landscape architecture is a design discipline, right? And suddenly I was going to the horticulture department, which was a very science
flowers.
oriented department,
Yeah,
and
flower power.
Yeah, and then I started having, when I talked to the land, I'd go back over to the landscape architecture department and sort of talk to people, and oh, oh, you've gone over to the dark side. I mean, they've actually said this to me. And it was,
It's it reminds me of that, what Henry Kissinger said about academics. He said, are the politics so vicious because the stakes are so high? And he goes, no, because they're so low. Um, but listen, Fred, I'm super happy you found your calling, and I'm super equally happy that we're back in touch.
yep.
What do you see? What's next for you? What's the rest of your life look like?
Well, I'm going to,
Your son
I
is
took
getting
my,
married.
what's
Your
that?
son is getting married
He's getting
on
married. He's getting
during our
married.
reunion.
Is that?
Unfortunately,
That's the day he picked, and I'm not arguing with him.
yeah,
Um, so I'm definitely would like to get off the planning board. I think, I've been chair for like 11 years now, 12 years. Getting a little
yeah.
tired of it. I, I, I really, I feel like I'd like to be like Ithaca's version of Johnny Appleseed and sort of surreptitiously go around planting trees everywhere where people don't know they are, and then they'll sort of spring up. So I've been propagating a whole bunch of stuff in my backyard,
You'd
and
be a tree terrorist.
yeah, it's sort of like a guerrilla tree
Yeah,
planter. That's
yeah. I like that.
I've been thinking about that because trees are good, and they do.
It sounds like it'd be a good novel. The Tree Keeper.
Yeah, it
Um,
might.
yeah, but you'll
Well,
stay there. It sounds like you like Ithaca. It sounds like that's going to be home.
well, we've been talking about moving.
Well, okay.
We've been talking about moving, so I better get those trees in the ground really quickly
Yeah.
before.
Where would you move to? Would you come back to the
Well,
city?
my daughter went to Brown, and my wife, and who had gone to Yale, visited Providence and said, "Wow, I really like Providence." And
Oh, wow.
so she has, that's one thought we've had is to move to Providence.
Well, Fred, I have good news for you. They have trees in Providence. So,
I know, I know.
so,
I sort of I corresponded at one point with the city forester.
oh, you did already. Look at you.
That
That's
was a long
awesome.
time ago. That was a long time ago. He's since retired, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Well, it's great.
we'll see.
It's really fun. It's different, but it's organic to who you are, and it's made you happy, and you've been outdoors, and you've been, you know, making the world a better place, essentially, a prettier place for sure. So, listen, Fred, thanks for doing this. It's great to see you.
No,
Normally, I say
great.
see you at reunion, but you're not coming.
I'm
So,
sorry.
so everybody, you're going to have to contact Fred directly
Yep.
up
I
in
live in
Ithaca.
Cayuga Heights. That's where I am.
What is it again? Cayuga Heights?
Cayuga Heights.
Cayuga Heights, yes, and
Yeah.
it is a height. I've been there, and it's like the streets are like this. It's quite something, but a beautiful place to live. Well,
Yep.
listen, Fred, stay in touch. Let's go to a concert soon. You
Okay.
know, while we still can, and please say hi to Diana for me
Okay.
and the Reismans, and best of luck and everything. And let me know if you move to Providence.
Okay. Take care, Michael.
All right, see you. Bye bye.